Alrighty, I could talk about things that Yensid said, but I want to be, I don't know. I feel like I won't ever talk about them if I don't, but some of the stuff that he just said was like total BS. just anybody who knows what's going on in this game, who's played this before, those are big chests, which will give you things like maps. How exciting. A map.
Is that the only chest in here? There was 2 left, wasn't there?
There's one more. One more somewhere. There's one more room on your right, but you can't go in there just yet. This is a strange tower. I wonder why it was built. Adventuring rule number 8. Search every corner of a new place.
Alright.
Yeah, whatever you say.
We have to read that book like Master Yan said. We've been asleep for a while, so we need to know what's been going on.
I like that their reaction to all of this is like, we were out in a field, and we found a castle. We all blacked out, and then we woke up in a new place inside of cryosleep pods, and let's just roll with it.
I mean, what other choice do they have?
I don't know, but something more than nothing. Alrighty, let's read the beginning.
Oh no.
Are you ready, Joey?
Oh no.
Just, okay. Each journey gives rise to chance encounters, and each encounter brings forth a farewell. When a farewell leads to a journey, the worlds open their hearts. These are those chosen by the light and those ensnared by darkness. Friends who share the same bonds, though their paths may differ. When you doubt the path trod thus far, when the hand you held is lost to you, gaze anew at the heart that once was, for all the answers are within. Don't worry, Joey. We only have 2 more exactly like that.
Oh man.
The Interlude.
I don't want to be that guy, but this is the beginning of the game, and I'm already tired of this. This sort of thing.
Interlude. A long dream, a sad farewell hanging in the air in that world between. What is reality? What is illusion? The path chosen by the young boy leads to his memories. So if you haven't caught on, the beginning was a recap of KH1.
Yeah.
And then now this is a recap of Chain of Memories. Recap, I use the word very loosely. When caught in the storm of the days and nights going past, gaze anew at your steps, for there all confusion will end. I love it. I love it so much. It's so terrible. I hate it. I hate everything about it. I gotta make clear that when I say I love it, I am just so filled with energy and passion by how terrible it is.
See, it's the exact opposite of me. I'm reading this and like my head's starting to hurt and I'm getting drained of all energy.
No. Again, let me make clear. When I say I love it, I mean I hate it.
No, I know, but we hate it 2 different ways. You're getting energized by your hate and I'm getting drained by my hate.
All right, the future story. So this is the projection of things to come.
Sure.
Will the day come when this battle, born of confusion, will end?
I'm gonna say no, because KH3 hasn't come out yet, and when it comes out, it's gonna leave on a big cliffhanger, and then my grandchildren are gonna get KH4.
It is different things to different people. Can the reality be that which is hidden? The reason is mere existence. Still, memories can be believed. Except for that we had a whole game about how memories can't be believed.
You know, this is written kind of like what you find like a Chinese bootleg knockoff shirt.
This feels like it was run through Google Translate.
Yeah, exactly.
Be not afraid. Entrust your body to the soothing waves of your memories. By and by, your fleeting rest will be over. It was not fleeting, it was a year long, and everything will begin. Thank God Yensid gave us that book to read.
Oh boy, this knowledge is valuable for our journey. Huh?
I feel like he's playing a prank on us. Like, he wrote that and was super excited to just hand that to Sora and watch him read it, you know what I mean? In the same way that, like, I want you to read, I'm trying to think of a similar example. I want you to read this poetry that my first grader wrote, you know?
Yeah.
But you don't tell them what it is, you just hand it to them and tell them to read it, and you just watch them read it. Do you have any more questions?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, actually, I do have questions. Please tell me. Answers to my questions.
But wait a sec. how come the Heartless are still running around?
Just really fast, Joey. Guess what? Guess what this scene contains?
What?
A definition for the word nobody.
Really?
Hallelujah!
Are you serious?
I'm not kidding.
So this isn't a waste.
No, that book is stupid, but this conversation with Yen Sid is about to be the most important conversation we've had in this game so far, at least from a plot standpoint. You're about to get the whole plot.
Did prevent an immense effusion of Heartless from the great darkness. Make no mistake about that. However, the Heartless are darkness made real, and darkness yet lingers in every heart. The Heartless are fewer, but while darkness exists in a single heart, it will be difficult to eliminate them.
Gorge, that must mean if everybody's heart was full of light, them Heartless would go away.
I don't like some of the over-exaggerated animations in this game. Like those reactions from Sora and Donald.
Yeah.
They were like, oh, ah!
Yeah.
Like, it's tough because it's a cartoony game.
But this is serious.
Well, it's not even that it's serious, it's that the presentation is inconsistent. Because, like, you look at an old Mickey Mouse cartoon that's like 8 minutes long, and it's full of expressive animation like that for the entire runtime. But here you get scenes where characters are stock still with slight lip flaps. And, we alternate between that and this ridiculous, exaggerated, over-the-top animation.
Yeah, I feel like if they just reserved it for, like, this is specifically a really goofy scene, or this is specifically a serious scene, like, if they kind of did that, maybe they could make it work.
Mm-hmm.
But,
Whatever.
But they didn't.
Now, it is time to speak of the enemies that you will encounter.
Please.
No, I knew it! I knew he was a snitch!
If one such as you, Donald, yields to the darkness in their heart, they too will become a Heartless. But you know this. The Heartless are always lurking and ever seeking.
I wish it was just the darkness texture, like, stretched over his model.
Yeah.
Now then. At times, if someone with a strong heart and will, be they evil or good, becomes a Heartless, the empty shell they leave behind begins to act with a will of its own. An empty vessel whose heart has been stolen away. A spirit that goes on even as its body fades from existence. For you see, no bodies do not truly exist at all. No bodies may seem to have feelings, but this is a ruse. They only pretend to have hearts. You must not be deceived.
Joe, you're giving me some perplexed looks here.
So, in that context of that anime, I get that that's the shell left behind, but...
They're going to explain more about the other guys in a second.
Okay.
But what I think you get it from a mechanical standpoint, right?
From a mechanical standpoint, I get it, but then what's his name? Roxas was nobody.
We'll get to that in a second. It's like Heartless are these animalistic things that are just either pure darkness or a heart overrun by darkness.
Right.
And they just kind of are... They're animalistic. They just seek to destroy and consume and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So if you've got a really strong will or whatever, then once your heart goes away, your body and your brain will hang out behind afterwards and kind of stay animated.
Yeah.
Though, as Yensid just said, they don't have any emotions apparently.
Nobodies. They don't exist.
Everybody talks big game about... Also, Sora just repeated the same thing that Ansem just said because this is a Japanese game, but that's fine. Everybody talks big game all the time about how nobodies aren't supposed to exist. But, I mean, like, they're a natural occurrence within the Kingdom Hearts world. And they do... People are like, we don't exist. But, I mean, they're there. They're not, like, ghosts. They're not, like, glitches in the Matrix.
Yeah.
That whole, like, we don't exist thing, I think, is a little bit of just kind of some angst that doesn't actually mean anything from a mechanical sense.
Now then, The being you see before you is known as a dusk.
That's just the name of the basic type of nobody.
Yeah,
enemy.
but what's his name?
You'll see.
Axel said he didn't want to become a dusk.
Yeah. They're basically going to demote Axel. So here, there are some others, some larger, some with frightening and unique powers.
Some larger, some with frightening and unique powers. Be vigilant. On your journey, you will meet an alarming number of dusks. They will all attempt to do you harm.
I don't really know about an alarming
They are
amount.
nothing but empty shells destined to return to darkness. But the beings you see before you now are different. These powerful nobodies have formed a group called Organization 13. It commands the lesser nobodies.
Organization 13.
Metal Gear.
Anything, Donald? No?
No, they don't know anything about
Heartless
Organization
act
13.
on instinct. Nobodies function in a higher manner. They can think and plan. And it seems they are working towards a goal. What that goal is, we do not know. The king sensed the danger and journeyed forth to fight it. He found the Dark Realm's Keyblade and with it closed the door. Now he's traveling from world to world, fighting the Heartless as he seeks the answer to the riddle of the Nobodies and Organization 13.
Then I guess we better go find the king first.
But where could he be?
Well, we won't know till we look.
Yeah, and the king must know where Riku is, because the two of them were together in the realm of darkness when we closed the door. You know, after defeating Ansem.
So,
Defeating.
before you go, you will need
quotation
more
marks.
suitable traveling clothes. Those look a bit too small for you.
Oh,
Through
are we
there,
getting a
you'll
rework?
find 3 good fairies. If you ask, they'll create for you appropriate garments.
Gorge, Sora, you sure are growing fast.
I guess.
I'll point out again that they're like, Mickey's trying to figure out what's going on. He's trying to figure out the answers to the riddles, and they're like, well, we've just got to track down the king. It's like, again, you've undercut all of the tension in this plot, but whatever. It's worth it because Reverse Rebirth was pretty good.
Whatever you say.
Now, I don't know, was it worth it? Reverse Rebirth was good, but we really are kind of, some stuff's going on here. But anyway, really fast.
I just realized that there's no reason it would cost 5,000 money for the three of us to get on that. They gave us a patch of 5,000, the money,
Oh, yeah.
but why, wait,
Well, we got on the
Can
Ghost
you
Train. I
even-
don't think we had to pay money for that.
then where's our money?
It's still in the pouch. We can't
Why-
use it. Maybe since it's digital, if we tried to spend it, somebody would be like, this is obviously counterfeited. I can see the code.
I don't think so though, because
No, I agree. It doesn't make
Okay.
sense, but whatever.
yeah,
Anyway.
sure, you know what? Screw it.
Now we have our first block of notes here from me, and this is going to take me a minute to get through. I'll probably swap out the music so we don't have to listen to Sorcerer's Tower banging on for a long time here. So, anyway, we are now in 5.5 hours in.
Okay.
Now, to be fair, we have taken much longer to get here than most
Yes.
people would. A lot of people would take 3 or 4 hours to get here, probably, unless they were taking a really long time and doing everything. But we have only just found out the basics of the plot, right?
Yeah,
Okay, until now, we didn't have a clear objective or any idea of what was going on.
we still barely have a clear objective.
In video games, having a clear goal is really important to engaging the player. Because this is part of why people get so frustrated with the Roxas sequence, because, there are other reasons with that, but we'll return to that later with Roxas. Like I said, I need to talk about that more later. But you'll notice that that's 2 times that I've noted the time on something.
Yes.
Once for the title screen and once just now with the 5.5 hours. The title screen was really just kind of a quirky thing. It's not that important. A lot of games don't even have a title screen, but I do want to now start some timers for some things, because obviously while we were just told the bare minimum of our story, did you notice what we weren't told just now? What the organization's goal actually is.
Yeah.
In fact, Yensid says directly that they are, quote, working towards a goal, but what that goal is, we do not know. This means that even though we know who our enemy is, we don't know what they're after, so there still aren't any stakes, and we don't necessarily have any reason to go and fight them yet. After all, even if we played Chain of Memories, that still doesn't help us on that front.
No.
We still don't know what the organization wants. This is more of our...
I mean, half those guys were
traitors,
anyway.
yeah. And this is try to kind of looping back to that whole mystery discussion I had in Chain of Memories. I guess I'll provide a link to that if nobody bothered to watch that episode, because not a lot of people didn't bother to watch Chain of Memories. Even less watched Riku mode. However, this isn't necessarily a huge problem. We could find out what their plan is pretty soon, but just to test it, we're going to start another timer right about here, and we're going to see how many more minutes or hours of game time it takes to learn exactly what the organization wants and how they're going about it. Now, if their goal and their methods are explained at different times, then we'll note both times, but keep the clock rolling. Because, what they want, we want to conquer the world, and we're going to conquer the world by poisoning the water supply. That's I don't know why I thought of that. I was thinking of Batman, I guess. The Batman villains love poisoning the water supply.
Sure.
Those are two different things. And both of those are important to understanding what the stakes are, what we need to stop and how we're going to stop it, why we need to stop these people. Because, until we know that, we don't know why any of the characters we're fighting are or are not villains. Alright. Now, even if it does take us a while to find out what the organization's plan is, there's something else that is debatably more important than that. You may have picked up on it, but this game's narrative is doing something fundamentally different from the first game's. I should make this clear, it's not necessarily bad what they're doing here, it's just different, so give me a second, because this is going to sound like... Because it is quite a bit different, but this can be done very well. So in the first game, everything that you were doing was tying directly into what the characters wanted. The hunt for Riku and Kairi and the desire to restore Destiny Islands correlated with the quest to stop Maleficent and defeat the Heartless. The goals were intertwined, so that's one way to write a story where the character's personal motivation is connected to the straightforward action of a story, right? Where I want these things, and that progresses them through the villain's plot, like they happen to coincide for whatever reason. You can also have a story where the hero needs to save the world because, he lives in the world, so saving it is kind of important. But usually stories will try to find a way to spice that up a little bit. Because, if you play video games, you're saving the world every other game.
Yeah.
That's really boring. I want to, why is this guy, Sora, saving the world and not Hayner? Yeah. Everybody lives in the world, so why is it his job to go and save it and not Leon or Cloud or any other Joe Schmo, right? You gotta have something a little bit more there emotionally to connect with. The most conventional way to do this is to have the bad guy steal the hero's kid or spouse or whatever. This happens all the time. I've kidnapped your daughter. I've kidnapped your girlfriend. Yeah, Taken. Easy. It's literally the name of the movie. This happens all the time. And KH1 had a little bit more going on than that, though. Again, it wasn't Shakespeare or anything, but it had a personal quest for Sora that was interesting and actually had something to do with the story beyond a contrived, "Bwahaha, we've kidnapped your girlfriend exclusively because she is your girlfriend."
Tied her to the train tracks.
Yeah, Kairi, even if Sora hadn't been in the equation, they still would have needed Kairi anyway. They didn't get her just because she was Sora's girlfriend.
Yeah.
And there was more going on than just, "Bwahaha, we have Kairi." So obviously, this game isn't going to work that way. As Sora just said a second ago, Kairi's going to have to wait a little bit longer, right?
Yeah.
Now Sora's quest to find Kairi isn't directly related to the story. Instead, it's this goal that Sora has to get Riku and go back to Destiny Islands, and the organization is stopping him from achieving it. Not because they're directly getting in his way of, "Bwahaha, you can't go back to Destiny Islands," but because he, Sora, as the hero, who, as we learned last time, grew and became more responsible and has this role he needs to fulfill as the hero, he has to go out and deal with the organization before he can do the things that he wants to do. This is in keeping with Sora's character, as we found him at the end of Kingdom Hearts 1. And I've got to make this really, really clear. This is not necessarily bad. This is the exact same narrative structure that Spider-Man has been operating on since 1962. Because for those who aren't familiar with Spider-Man, outside of maybe the movies, I don't know that much about him outside of the movies, I've only read a few of the comics. Spider-Man isn't really about his villains. He doesn't have an iconic nemesis like how Batman has the Joker or Superman has Lex Luthor or whatever else. Most of Spider-Man's villains, while cool, don't have a lot going on. They like to rob banks.
Yeah.
And sometimes they rob banks.
And shoot uncles.
And when they're feeling really crazy, they rob banks and shoot at ants, but usually don't hit them, right? Not ants as in Ant-Man, ants as in Aunt May. I guess they do shoot at Ant-Man sometimes too. I figure they hang out sometimes occasionally. All those comic book guys hang out with each other. There's just not a lot going on with Spider-Man's villains, is my point. Because Spider-Man's...
Get ready for the angry message.
Spider-Man's biggest villain is Peter Parker. Because his secret identity and vice versa is... The best Spider-Man stories understand that it's all just a huge soap opera. The drama doesn't come from Spider-Man fighting Dr. Octopus, but from whatever he misses because he was fighting someone. Like, everybody's seen Spider-Man 2. Everybody knows it was, like, the first really good superhero movie. You know, people are like, oh, it's not as good as we thought it was, but whatever. People liked Spider-Man 2 when it came out a lot. In the opening sequence of that, Peter's a struggling college student who's barely getting by on his crappy pizza delivery job in Manhattan, and then he loses his job because he had to go and do a Spider-Man thing. When he finally gets home at, like, midnight, he finds Aunt May and his friends waiting to throw him a party, and he realizes that he forgot it was his birthday. And this is good stuff.
Yeah.
Also good, the Ultimate Spider-Man comics, which I've only read the first couple of volumes of and are like the only comics that I own, but are pretty good. It's a long story as how I wound up with those. There's a moment early on in like volume 3 or so where Spider-Man has his first big fight with Doc Ock. This is the first really big supervillain fight he's fought. He's fought a couple of supervillains, but this is the first really, really big, intense one. And at this point, the public thinks that Spider-Man is a menace and a threat because he's a weirdo running around in a mask, right? But Doc Ock has just murdered 2 people, and Spider-Man protects all the reporters who are on the scene and saves a couple people's lives while defeating Doc Ock. And all this happens on live television, right? Mm-hmm. So people kind of see that he's doing these heroic things. And then afterwards, he does a little interview with the reporters and explains that he's just trying to help people because he believes in the whole with great power comes great responsibility thing. That the way that he sees it, if he has all this power and he's in helping people, then if someone gets hurt, it's his fault. And he also explains, I have the mask because I have people that I care about and I don't want them in danger because I'm doing this. This is all, this is basic superhero 101, but dumbass public Joe Normal in a comic book universe gotta be explained these things. Because otherwise they assume that you're a bad guy. Unless you're a handsome devil like Robert Downey Jr. or blatantly patriotic like Captain America. Anyway, so after this, he goes home. And this is his biggest victory yet, because he's fought his biggest and most dangerous villain, he's changed the public's opinion of him, or at least had an opportunity to make a dent in his bad public appearance. But when he gets home and walks in, Aunt May is waiting for him. And it's 3 o'clock in the morning. She asks him, where have you been? She pulls up his sleeve. Is this a bruise on your arm? She figures, because they live in Queens, that he's out running around with a gang or something.
Yeah.
Right? Because his behavior's changed a lot recently. She's called around to work. She called Mary Jane. He's nowhere to be found. And he starts giving all these excuses about where he was, and she's already looked at or called all of these places and knows that he wasn't there, right? So she grounds him and says he can't see Mary Jane and do all this stuff, right? So Peter Parker's greatest defeat, so far in the comic anyway, directly follows Spider-Man's biggest victory in the comic so far. So the point is that this narrative structure can work, and has been working for a long time for Spider-Man, among other things. And it can even be really compelling. You don't have to have super interesting villains or even a villainous plot that matters. Because having, in this case, let's say, having Sora running around doing his job and being worried about getting back to Kairi or finding Riku can totally work, but it's going to depend on how they handle it. Now, if they're constantly bringing up Kairi, then it's going to be distracting and it's going to feel forced and unnatural. But if they don't ever talk about her, then there isn't going to be any tension. And this is going to kind of fall apart, right? Because we've already kind of undercut the tension on the whole Riku thing because of Reverse Rebirth. And, like, we've got to find Riku. He's somewhere. Even that inherently doesn't have stakes, because unless you're showing, like, unless you have, like, a timer up in the top that goes days until Riku is killed by the Heartless in the Realm of Darkness, then, like...
And it's already like, oh, he's probably fine.
Yeah, you know? Whereas the emotional thing of, I left Kairi on Destiny Islands for a year! That's compelling.
Yeah.
I need to finish my job so I can go home and tell Kairi that I'm not dead! Because he doesn't know that she forgot about him or whatever.
Well, yeah.
But anyway, point being that they've got to manage how they do this. If you don't switch if you don't switch between the Peter Parker and Spider-Man stuff at a good pace, then both plot lines will lose their tension. If you stay with Spider-Man too long, these villains are boring. You stay with Peter Parker too long, where's the action at? You know, and if he doesn't ever go do Spider-Man stuff, then there's no tension in the Peter Parker stuff. You gotta manage these things, is what I'm saying. So from here on out, we're going to be timing how long it takes for Kyrie to be mentioned or seen.
Oh boy.
In addition to timing how long it takes for us to find out what the organization's goal and methods are. And I jotted down 3 hours and 59 minutes for title screen, and I have time to knowing threat, time to mention of Kyrie, and time to knowing the organization's goal and or their methods. Threat was just now. We just now found out that. I'll jot down the time in a second because I didn't get it before.
Yeah.
But that was just now this spiel with Yensid, which was like 5 hours into the game. Now we have the bare minimum of what we're supposed to go and do, which is kind of an important thing to have in a video game where you're asking the player to actively engage and do stuff. They need to have an objective, which is part of why the Roxas sequence doesn't work so great. But again, we'll talk about the Roxas sequence more in a little bit. Now, I just talked for ages, but I had a script, so it was faster than it would have been if I hadn't had it.
Thank God.
And unfortunately, normally I would have been able to do that while you were running around and fighting enemies, but if I'd let you continue, you would have been walking into a cutscene, so I needed to go ahead and get that out now.
Wonderful.
So, let's go ahead and save up, I'll stop the recording, and we'll move on with our lives.
Alrighty, sounds good.